I was not a good student. I was a terrible student.
How about you were the problem?
I was.
Exactly.
That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Yeah.
I mean, it was not them that was the problem. It was me. I just didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to do any work.
How many Al Dukes did you have in the class? Like they would just do everything the teacher said, didn't like the people like you?
Oh, lots of them. There were a ton of them.
Lots of them.
There were lots of them. Most of them were that way. Most of them were that way. And if you did well there, I mean, we had someone go to Harvard, we had someone go to MIT in my class, so they did well. But I mean, I just wasn't inspired. Just like I'm not inspired by the Mets. What about a segue, Jerry? Huh? Yeah. How's that for a frickin' segue?
Where's KFC this morning?
Yeah, I know, Mr. Positivity. I was thinking about him as well a couple of times. One, just because the team stinks, and there's no way you can spin this right now. I mean, they're so unwatchable at this point that Steve Cohen has stopped watching them as he was out to dinner last night with his daughter, not even paying attention to the game. And I know that they tried to come back, but what's happened now is adding to a terrible offense that has been underachieving the entire year is now subpar starting pitching.
Yeah.
So these guys that were carrying you and keeping you in games and keeping you 4 or 5 games ahead in first place in the NL East, like Marcus Stroman, Taijuan Walker, Tylor McGill, these guys have not pitched well. On top of the fact that you have one of the worst offenses and one of the most anemic run-scoring offenses in all of baseball, and now you've got the Philadelphia Phillies winning 3 in a row, and here you are. So it was, really the lead that they had, and we had called it fool's gold in the NL East. The lead that they had basically was spraying a fragrance on what this team really is, which is an average baseball team that I understand has had some bad breaks. Lindor, DeGrom, we can keep going, but still, they're an average baseball team, and now it's coming home to roost because they're losing games, and now the Phillies are winning games, and now you really don't have a lead anymore.
Yeah, and this notion, and this go back to yesterday's conversation, and even prior to that, the notion that we're negative, it's not negative calling a team an average baseball team. We're not saying they stink. We're not saying they're bad. They're average and a little bit better than average, and right now they're in a little bit of a tailspin, and you've got a team that has kind of laid in the weeds in the Phillies that lineup-wise is really good. Zach Wheeler's pitching really well. I'm concerned about the Phillies. I have been all year long. I feel like if they get hot, because the Mets have not taken advantage of opportunities they've had this year to separate themselves, that it's going to come back to bite them on the backside. And here you are now. You've lost 2 in a row to the Marlins. You had a death, and you can talk about the Saturday night win at Citi Field all you want. Yes, exciting, wonderful, cardiac kids. It was amazing. Surrounded by 2 terrible losses, and then 2 losses in Miami to a team that just lost to the Yankees 3 in a row, and the Yankees couldn't even score against them, and they still beat them. Now you've got a chance to, at the very best, get a 4-game split if, in fact, you can win the next 2 games, and then you've got a road trip in Philadelphia waiting for you to where you can find yourself out of first place. So it's not negative, it's very real, and it's disappointing. I don't know how a Met fan cannot say it's been disappointing. You want to talk to me about all the injuries? Great. Injuries are everywhere, and they still are trotting out good players most nights. They should be better than this.
Yeah, and you could talk about the new ownership and how it's not the Wilpons all you want. And yes, that does factor into trying to address what this team is going to be in the future. But let's look at some of the stuff that has happened and tell me it's not some of the same old stuff where you're hiring a GM that you have to fire immediately because of his conduct. You've got you go out and you trade for one of the best shortstops in baseball who is severely underachieving. You also have a draft situation where you draft a guy that you don't end up signing because of an injury that other teams passed on that affected the rest of your draft and how you spent money. I mean, there's been a lot of trade deadline. You want it to be the Dodgers. That's what I heard from Steve Cohen. We want to be the East Coast Dodgers. The Dodgers go out and get Trey Turner and Max Scherzer at the trade deadline. I know the Mets got Baez, but that was it. That's all they did. So, I mean, I don't look at this team right now as anywhere near competing for a championship, especially with the injuries that they have. And we keep hearing DeGrom September, and he's hopeful that he's going to come back. I mean, I have no idea if I'm going to see him pitch again this year.
Nor do they.
Yeah, of course they don't. They could be optimistic, and without him, they've got no shot to compete in the National League or even be close to being a World Series contender. And those are just the facts, man. It's not trying to be negative. It's just what we've seen the entire year.
Right. And I'll even put aside everything off the field you just talked about. As bad as it is, you're spot on. That having been said, if DeGrom was there and healthy, and if Lindor, forget the injury, because prior to the injury, he did nothing except play a very good shortstop, but offensively was nothing. If you were getting a 320 batting average from Lindor, big hit after big hit, and he was playing like you expect him to play, and DeGrom was there every 5 days, then you'd expect better for sure. That said, they do have enough talent to overcome this to a point where they're not losing games consistently. For the last 6 weeks, they've been just a very mediocre 500 type team. If that, they're 3-7 or 4-6 in their last 10. They're better than this. It's not like they're losing to the juggernauts of the National League, and that's coming. You got the Dodgers and Giants right around the corner. 13 of them.
Yeah.
So it's been disappointing. There's nothing else to say. It's been disappointing. And if you're a Met fan and you don't think that, I don't know what you're watching.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be disappointed with the season. And you're right. Now, I understand they played up to their competition, but this iteration of the Mets with the injuries and how they've played running into the Dodgers and the Giants, who are significantly better than they are. I mean, it could potentially be a bloodbath. It really could be.
But you know what the good news is? You still have plenty of time to figure it out. You need one good hot streak to turn the tide, if you will. And yeah, they're injured. But I also see Pete Alonso playing. I see Jeff McNeil playing. I see Baez playing. I see J.D. Davis playing. They've got players. They've got talent. It just needs to come together, and so far it hasn't.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what to make of last night's sort of frustration boiling over with a couple of guys. You know, one Javi Baez after he goes 0 for 4 last night, and then he's chirping and he's getting in the face of the home plate umpire. And then, of course, Luis Rojas getting thrown out. Maybe he feels like that's a spark that they needed at that point, or maybe he was just really that mad about balls and strikes. I don't know. On one hand, I like it because it shows that they care. On another hand, though, it's like, I mean, are these guys panicking now? Are they freaking out?
See, I don't know enough about Baez to think that. I like his fire. I like his energy.
Yeah.
I love the passion he plays with. So I think that just might be the type of personality he is. And for Rojas, I think it's great. I really do. I think anytime a manager comes out there and defends his team, or I think it shows a passion that sometimes might be lacking outside. And even if it's just perception, sometimes a good perception is better than the reality of the situation, and it can turn things around. So I don't have any issue with it. I don't look at it as panic at all. But talk to me in a week and a half. I mean, if they've lost 7 of their next 9 and they're 4 games out, then maybe we'll revisit this and say they were panicking at the time. But I won't go there yet.
Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit the red bell so you're notified when we have new content.